Ubisoft really knows what's the definition of insanity. It's like they're stuck in a loop, making the same game over and over again, so someone call it bullshit.
So boom, I shot him.
They are not necessarily bad games, but it's like they're copying and pasting Far Cry 3 since its release. Most fans adore the second, third, and fourth game, and if you dare say that the other ones are just as good, there will be a witch hunt. So we can think of it as a cake recipe, where Ubisoft have done a good cake once, your friends, your neighbors, and even grandma ate it. The baker now is fully aware of how much people love that recipe, and the bakery just doesn't know how they could ever make a cake better than that. So they've been simply using the same recipe for multiple years. But they change some ingredients here and there to try and make a more delicious cake, and to not have the same taste as the cake that everyone is just full of. So they start adding some chocolate here, a little vanilla there, and some more, I don't know, frosting. So now the cake is kinda different, but still most of it is the same. Eventually though, it gets pretty hard to come up with new ingredients to add, and the cake starts to feel like more and more of the same. Now every loyal customer notices this, and there's no hype in buying the cake anymore because everyone's just full of it. So I wanted to take a look at all the ingredients that this cake have received over all these years. So if you wanna come with me in this journey, we gotta start in the first cake, the original cake.
What is going on?
Yeah, it's rewind time.
Damn, I can really feel time on that opening. But yeah, kinda crazy to think about how different these openings are nowadays. Feels like I've just watched a trailer of the first game. But yeah, it's actually canon. Yeah, well, so Far Cry is the first person shooter featuring an action adventure. And a common topic in every Far Cry game is mysticism. But this one, different from the other ones, goes with a little sci-fi slash horror kind of vibe.
What the hell is that thing?
It must be a Triton.
Developed by Crytek and published by Ubisoft. Released in 2004. Oh yeah, 2004, a great year for FPSs, where aiming on sights meant just leaning forward a little bit. It's the only game in the franchise to have been developed by Crytek. At the time, the Cry engine was the best in the market. Back then, there weren't many PCs that could run this game at all. Even high-end builds would struggle, so very few machines could run it at its full potential. Now let's get into the story, shall we? So, that very traditional Far Cry opening that we've just watched, that's the actual start. So our protagonist is an American man called Jack Carver. He's an ex-United States Army Special Forces soldier and a man with a dark past. Something real bad happened to him while he served, but the game never reveals what it is, so we can just wonder. All we know is that it was so bad that it got him fired, and he had to start working as a boat charter. So he gets employed by a reporter named Valerie Constantine to take her to an island in Micronesia. And differently from the other Far Cries, this game is settled in a real country. So the reason why Valerie wanted to go to the island is because she wanted to do a documentary about World War II ruins that the island supposedly have. When they get there, Valerie leaves the boat using a jet ski and Jack stays. And not even a minute after that, a mercenary from across the realm sniped the boat with a rocket launcher. And even this moment is canon because this happens a lot on the actual game. Fuck. Damn. Oh my god. Holy. So, after Jack was propelled into the sea and his boat reduced to smithereens, he conveniently wakes up on a World War II fortress with no major injuries. From here, you get in control of the character. Explore the place, meaning go through the basic moves tutorial. Well, after done that, conveniently find a PDA at the place you got randomly thrown at.
Are you
Build
there?
a dispenser to fully heal from the crash. Oh, no, wait. It's Doyle's PDA. He wants to
Who are
meet you.
you?
I'm the guy who's going to tell you how to survive. Call me Doyle.
How did he knew that your boat was going to crash and send you to this exact location so he could place a PDA beforehand to communicate with you? Well, I don't know. I guess it doesn't matter. So, meet Doyle. Trust him with your life for no reason whatsoever.
How do I know I can trust you?
We need a dispenser right here.
Good point. Keep talking.
Get a gun. Kill pirates. Oh, Valerie is in this carrier.
They may be keeping Val in the old carrier refueling station.
Go there. Meet the villain.
This archipelago is the ideal location for my research. These islands are isolated from international shipping lanes, so I am free to do my work without interference from the outside world. This work will take time, but a measure of the future of mankind depends on the success of my research here. I will not fail my destiny.
So you're the famous Dr. Krieger.
Tim's abortion clinic and pizzeria where yesterday's loss is today's sauce. How may I help you?
What the hell?
Get a boat.
Okay, I've got a boat. Now what?
Our only chance is to disrupt the entire communications grid. That's the only way to cause enough confusion for you to escape completely.
Do everything that Doyle says for no reason whatsoever.
We need to get you to Kabatu. Head east to Violator. If you plant a demolition pack on the fuel tank, the blast should be enough to destroy the whole facility. I'm headed in, but I need a diversion. Why don't you blow up the armory in their camp? That should create enough of a distraction for me to slip through.
Killing, getting items for him, and exploding places even though it doesn't help you get any closer to Valerie. Oh yeah, remember Valerie, the one and only reason you are still at that island? So when you finally find where she might be, go there. Repeat this for about 4 more times and roll the credits. That's basically the whole game. The plot is, fundamentally, an endangered lady who gets abducted by a mad scientist. But then you, as the American one-man army, arrives to save the day. Wait, but Nori, what's the villain plan? What's his aspirations? Well, Krieger is developing a serum that, in theory, is supposed to improve humankind. And it's because of him that the island is full of mercenaries. He hired them to protect the island from outsiders, and then started to test his serum in monkeys. but their DNA would change in such a way that after being injected with the serum, all the monkeys would turn into a weird monster-like creature. A creature that the mercenaries in the island named as Trigens. Yeah, so he knew that the serum was a complete failure, and then proceeded to apply it on humans, on the mercenaries that he hired. But why?
I'm sure you'll make a lovely mutant.
Why would he turn his army into a super army that actually, no one could control? Well, there's one scene where he mentions this problem.
I have taken the precaution of using my own DNA as a carrier for the strain. Perhaps this will give them some primordial instinct linking them to me. Then I should be able to control them.
But still, his hypothesis was only theoretical, and previous testing showed that whatever his plan was, it probably wouldn't work. So, Doyle is an undercover CIA agent.
How did you know that?
Well, Valerie randomly reveals this information after kicking you in the face to save you from a helicopter crash.
Valerie Constantine, CIA. I'm here on assignment.
You could have mentioned that back in port.
So yeah, Valerie is a CIA agent too. And the only reason why she procured your services as a boat charter was to kill everyone at that island. Yeah, man, you just can't make this up. And yeah, I guess that worked because Jack just doesn't give up.
Anyway, I started blasting. Bang! Bang!
Now, just being straight, the plot is trash. The voice acting of every character and the cutscenes are both super goofy.
Oh, man.
The campaign is about 11 hours long, and the game is actually pretty hard. Yeah, why is it hard? Stop! Did not come up with this joke here. Get out, get out. Yeah, so, for starters, there's not many checkpoints, and you just can't save manually, and some of them are just so far away from one another. So a lot of times I just died and lost like 10 minutes of progress. And trust me, it's so easy to die on this game. Especially when they start adding a bunch of bullshit everywhere. Like when all these different type of Trigens start showing up. They have way too much HP, deals way too much damage, besides the monkey variable that can literally one-hit you. Some of them can move very quickly, some can get invisible. And there's this buff Trigen that the game calls Fat Boys. Most of them have a rocket launcher arm, so they can shoot you from distance. And there are some parts of the game where the devs just fill the whole map with them. And his HP...
It's over 9,000! What?
But not only that, some enemies can shoot you from behind walls. The helicopter is super annoying to kill, and if it's flying above you, it's a 50% chance to kill you. And the stealth is not real. It's a fake stealth. What do I mean by that? Well, enemies can spot you from 100 miles away. Sometimes they'll see you even if you're crouched behind them.
Did you see something? You hear something? Did you see something?
And when they see you, the meter fills up very quickly.
Sussy baka.
And they stay alert for a while. And even if you manage to sneak behind the enemy's back, killing them makes noise, so it will alert everyone around you.
I don't know. The rest of the year, we better find him. And quick.
Hey, get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, so stealth in this game is virtually impossible. On screen, we got on the bottom left a battery that is actually your thermal vision goggles. It's useful to see invisible enemies. And sometimes it's good to see in the dark too. There's also a compass and a radar. That's you. The blue dot and arrow is your objective. And there's a bunch of things that I don't know what it is, but I think these are enemies. Bottom center is your mission items. And waves are sound. Bottom right, there's 3 bars. The red one is your health. You replenish it by picking up medkits. Orange is armor. And differently from the health kits, some enemies drop armor. The blue bar is your stamina, and you use it for basically anything. Swimming, running, jumping, you name it. If you are walking, it won't fill back up. You can only get it back by standing still. There's 11 guns in the game, but you can say there's 14 weapons if you count grenades, including a Deagle, the only handgun in the game. It has 9 bullets, You can carry 150 extra ammo. It's probably one of the worst guns in the game, but it's just so satisfying to shoot it. A machete. 3 assault rifles, including an M4A1. You get it right after the deal. It's not very precise, but it's okay. An AG-46, 30 bullets, and a scope. Not very precise when hip firing, but it has a grenade launcher attached to it. An OICW, similar to the AG-46, the only difference being that it has 10 more bullets. It's a little more precise than the other rifles. And it has a very efficient grenade launcher, as you can see here. Yeah. Same gun types share the same ammo, and can carry 300 bullets. For the shotgun, we got the jackhammer. You can load 10 shots and 50 more ammo. We got 2 SMGs, a silenced MP5 with 30 bullets in the magazines, and you can carry 300 ammo. It's kinda useful for stealth, if enemies are just far enough to not listen to the shots and doesn't have a clear sight to you. It has low damage though, and the other SMG being a P90. We also got a rocket launcher, 4 rockets in the chamber, and you can carry 10 more in your back pocket. An M249 machine gun, and you can just go full Rambo with it. 100 bullets ready to shoot, and 300 more for you to reload. And the freaking AW-50 sniper rifle. You can have 5 shots in the magazine and 25 extra bullets. But boy oh boy, the stability is just non-existent.
Come on. Come on. No!
And aiming on sights on this game is just so triggering. It's such a weird bug. Sometimes you press M2 and it will work just fine, and sometimes... Well, there's also 3 very useful grenades, like a frag grenade, a flash, and a smoke. That literally does nothing to the enemy, it just makes your vision blurry. There are 6 different means of transport, like a Humvee, a buggy that is the exact same as the Humvee, a gunboat, an inflatable boat, a truck, and even a glider and a forklift. The multiplayer had 3 game modes, a free-for-all, team deathmatch, and assault. That's like a classic capture the point with 3 points. There was 3 different classes. The Grunt that has the most health and carries the biggest weapons. A sniper that snipes. And an engineer that could build barriers, plant bombs, could also carry medkits to heal teammates, and had access to some other equipment too. I couldn't play the multiplayer myself, because there's not even servers nowadays. Some versions of the game also had a level editor, so players could create their own maps as they please. And about bugs, well, I've experienced some. Not a big surprise since it's a Ubisoft game. The ones I experienced though, some were pretty annoying, like when my character just wouldn't stop jumping. I even tried to prone, crouch, and swim to fix it. And the only solution was to actually restart from the checkpoint. And some were kind of funny, like when I killed the enemies, and instead of them becoming ragdolls, they just freeze. There ain't much wildlife on the game, Though you can hear a billion different animals, but actually seeing them is a different story. The only animals that I saw in my playthrough were this fish.
Attention! Attention! This just in! A giant monster is attacking Bikini Bottom!
These birds that I actually didn't notice till I watched the recording. And this hooked shark. But I guess it doesn't really count, right? And what happens if you try to deliver the map? Well, the game spawns a helicopter that insta-kills you. The AI is alright for a 2004 game. Enemies call for backup if they're alone. Hide behind cover, try to flank, run away when you're getting close, and try to call for alarms. They react to sound, even though sometimes they can hear and see too much.
You see something? You're going down!
But also, sometimes they're just...
Hey, yo, what the?
And sometimes they're clearly looking at you, but the game makes them not be able to detect you. They also react to getting hit in many different ways. Let me just demonstrate this here. And what about when they are not in combat? Well, they talk to each other.
Hey, how's it going?
You know, same old thing.
And do things. Your allies' AI is not so good though.
I spotted a small camp nearby. Looks like the perfect place to borrow some transportation.
Most of the time they just stand there and you can't let them die. But yeah, your only ally in the game is Valerie, and she only appears in a few moments. So yeah, it kinda makes sense that they didn't put much attention onto her. The soundtrack is pretty bad. Seriously, even the mercenaries listen to bad music. It's really because the developers really paid more attention to the soundtrack from the second game forward. Yeah, the first Far Cry really don't got much going for it compared to the games that came after, but it set foot on what the franchise would one day become. Far Cry 1 is the game that created the recipe. The game has a Metascore of 8.9, being harshly criticized over the game's plot, the difficulty, and the voice acting. But it received many compliments for the graphics, physics, the ambience, the variety of biomes, and the immersion that the game offers. This, of course, comes from the freedom of choice that the player has over the game. Like, you don't have to kill enemies if you don't feel like it. That gives you the opportunity to plan and execute your attacks in many different ways. So you'll never finish the game the exact same way as someone else did. And people in 2004 probably saw that and were like... But don't get me wrong, it's not really open world. There's nothing to do on the map, so there's no reason to explore. But still, remarkable and innovative for its time, and definitely set the bar on video games overall. In fact, the recipe was so good that years later, they reused most of it on Far Cry 3. But we'll get into that later. Let's just get to the next release for now.
This is perfect, Mr. Carver. My editor wasn't joking about this place.
Whatever. Listen, I'll swing around to the east so you can get some shots of the wrecks. But this is as close as we get.
Actually, I wanted to talk to you about that.
Here we go.
Back in port, you said something about old World War II gun emplacements.
And I also said something about reefs. As in, I just bought this tub and I don't want to have to fix the hull again.
What, didn't the Navy teach you how to navigate through shallow water?
Shut the up, bitch. Back the up. I'm not the at you.
Damn.
Hey!
Look, I need to get in closer. So, if I wanted to maybe rent that little water scooter of yours for a couple of hours, what would that cost? I'll be back here in 2 hours.
What time is it?
Motherfucker! Ah! No, there's no way! Who the hell has helicopters out here? Shit!
So, with all the success and positivity that came with Far Cry 1, Ubisoft decided to do the same game again. But it's not the same game. They added Instincts to the title and released it for Xbox. The next year. It should have been released for the PS2 as well, but was ultimately cancelled. So, what do I mean by saying it's not the same game? Well, Ubisoft, taking all the feedback, decided to do some changes to the plot, gameplay, and they even fixed the checkpoints and all that. Jack has more background now. So the story now goes like this. Jack is a former service member of the US Navy who was dishonorably discharged following a number of illegal actions. Afterwards, he set up a shop in Manhattan and began supplying illegal arms to anyone who got paper, until a gang performed a hit using weapons supplied by Jack against the Mafia heir. Consequently, a price was put on his head by the mob, and he was forced to flee the United States, and he settled in Micronesia. He purchased a used boat from a government auction and spent his time ferrying tourists. Then Valerie shows up, offering him money to take her to an archipelago, and from here the story gets very similar to the first game, with just some few different key moments that is worth mentioning. Like, in a part of the game, Jack is captured by Krieger and his mercenaries.
That time's over, sailor.
Because Krieger thought Jack would make a good test subject for his serum. Then is ejected with the serum and is to be transported to an observation area. When he recovers prematurely and escapes, and discovers to his shock that he has new feral abilities, hence the instincts in the title.
Something's not right. My arm's stronger.
Jack now got some superpowers, such as increased speed, night vision, he can also feel the enemy's scent. Translated to gameplay, it means that enemies leave a trail. Health recover, and one-punch melee attacks. Jack can also set up traps in this game.
Command. Wait for him to pop out. There.
Oh, and sounds hurt him, like a symbiote. And in the most Crisis style, you can rip out and equip mounted guns like they have no weight.
I have just one question for you. What are those?
Yeah, so they also changed the visual style of the Trigens. Besides these changes, the game is way more linear in this version. Not necessarily a bad thing since there's not a whole lot to do in the first game's map. But it was still kinda nice to have that freedom. Like in Far Cry 1 feels like you're walking in a huge desert. And in this one it feels like you're walking in a huge corridor. Well, at least it's not as hard as the PC version. And the voice acting is better too.
Ah, shit! Turn that fucking thing off!
The soundtrack is still kind of meh. The AI is also worse than the first game. It's really because they were dumbed down so the game is easier. And because of that, the stealth is actually existent.
Hey, what was that? I have visual contact. Get me back.
I'm just kidding, there's still no way to be stealthy here. I mean, some guns have silencers on them. Enemies won't spot you so easily. But realistically, stealth is just not viable at all. There's not many features to help you in a stealth approach. And it's clear that the devs didn't even try to add it as an option. Actively going in stealth would be a real challenge. That is, if you like really boring challenges. Like, damn, sneak attacks makes enemies go flying, probably alerting anyone near you. But anyway, at the end of the day, it's really just the same game as the previous one. I mean, sure, the guns changed, enemies changed, but it's just the same story being told again. They didn't try to innovate, they really just read the reviews and removed everything that people liked. But I mean, it's nice, it's a port for consoles, and for a while, it was one of the most played games on the Xbox Live. They added 2 game modes to the multiplayer, still the simple, that is just the normal capture the flag. And yeah, the whole multiplayer looks interesting. And chaos. Far Cry Instincts has a Metascore of 8.5, with most critics being focused on the absence of innovation. It is inferior to the PC version in many different ways, like graphics, AI, physics, and stuff like that. But overall, it's the better game. It's kind of a bummer that they didn't release it for the PC, because then I guess they will have no excuse to release the same game twice. It's a game beloved by many fans, and is considered one of the best games in the classic Xbox. Well, what we can take as an addition to the franchise that came with Far Cry Instincts is the health recovery system, and maybe the skill tree, or rather, the skills. I don't know.
Wake up! Damn it, wake up! Get in back and fire that gun! Move it, or they'll be scraping our asses out of here with a spatula!
Released for Xbox just 1 year later, Far Cry Instincts Evolution, a sequel to Far Cry Instincts, and pretty much a DLC. It's just a little short expansion to Instincts. The storyline picks up a little while after Instincts, with Jack waking up in a pickup with a mounted gun on top. He immediately jumps on it and with no hesitation starts blasting everyone. Just a little later, he tries to remember how did he get there.
How the hell did I end up here?
I mean, it's a well-known cliche type of scene. Like, there's a scene like that in 1,000 different movies, and I see what they were going for, but this scene here just doesn't make any sense, because everything that happened before happened in less than 12 hours, so there's no reason for him to be asking that. But it looks cool. That's probably why they added this. But the only thing I can imagine is developers having a meeting and someone goes, yeah man, we need something cool to happen after this. And a guy went, yeah, just throw a flashback there or whatever. That's genius. Well, anyway, Jack is hired by another sexy lady named Cade.
Buy a girl a drink?
And just like that, they banged.
Something dirty?
Word is you're good with weapons.
This is actually tips for guys watching. What turns women on?
Weapons.
And the game kind of leads you to believe that she did it in order to pay for his service.
Why didn't you just ask me in the bar?
Are you complaining?
Well, not if we can go again.
Are you in?
Yeah.
Then it's not a no.
To be fair, she did say this.
Enough cash to get you your new boat, plus some gas to go in it.
But she just never paid him. In fact, during the whole game, she openly shows that she never intended to pay him, and she never did.
The safest way is through the Bursar storehouse. And Jack, I wouldn't count on getting your money back. Kate gave me the slip.
And I don't know, it's just kind of funny how Jack's just totally cool with getting shot multiple times and killing thousands of people for absolutely freaking nothing.
Hey yo! You're a simp! You're a simp! This is my
And I gotta say, I absolutely hate the cutscenes in this game. Every character is either staring at nothingness, or I don't know, maybe Jack got a third nipple or something, or their hair and clothing is clipping through everything. Anyway, she needs his help for an arms deal between pirates and the government of Micronesia. The deal then is under attack by rebels led by a native chieftain named Samaru.
Help me with this.
Sorry, not in my contract.
There they are.
Fuck this shit, I'm out.
He then murdered the pirate leader, the Micronesian governor, and Jack is framed for the attack.
You have to get out of here. They know me, but you're a stranger. They'll think you're the killer.
Even though he was not the only one at the crime scene, they even saw Samaru jump through the window, and the pirates saw him with Cade.
How you doing, buddy?
And apparently they trust Cade, so she could have just vouched for him. Well, whatever. Let's get to our villain since we just met him. I just wanna say that I think it's kind of funny how he looks a little bit like Krieger. But, you know, if he was into steroids. Now, he's really what I would expect from this game's villain. He knows that Carver is trying to disrupt his plans, but in multiple moments doesn't show any sign of interest in actively killing him, till a point where Jack destroyed the most crucial part of his plan. Only then he starts to hate him, but now Jack is way stronger than before. His plan is to decimate everyone in the island who doesn't got the pharaoh abilities.
It couldn't be simpler. We will wipe the land clean of this filth. Build it back up in our image through blood and fire.
You should definitely put that on the brochure.
And he wants to capture Cade, but there's no reason why, except to give Carver a motivation to kill him. And the game just never really explains much more than this. I really tried to find any more information about him, and that's really it. He's just a guy who loves slaughter. And for some reason got a lot of the serums that Krieger created. So the main difference between him and Krieger is that Samaru, who along with his elite warriors, exhibit the same pharaoh abilities as Jack. So after the negotiations went south, Jack managed to escape and hide in a safe house with Cade.
We have to split up. I have a safe house on the far side of town. I'll meet you there.
Why don't you take me with you?
Did you hear a boat? Is that a joke? You think it's funny that I'm missing an ear?
Then you meet Doyle. Again.
Who are you? Why did your boyfriend kill the magistrate?
Yeah, he looks a little different, but I swear it's him. Who's here to investigate the rebel attacks and to do
damage control.
After the governor's assassination destabilized the region, he offers Jack and Cade amnesty from the Micronesian government in exchange for their help. And just like that, Jack's back at it again, doing all the work for Doyle and killing everyone for literally no personal interest. So the spirit of Princess Peach falls upon Cade, and she gets captured as you may have expected. And Jack gotta save her.
It's time to end this!
Damn straight.
But once he finds out where she's being held captive and goes to save her,
Cade.
He finds out that Samaru is Cade's new boyfriend.
I told your name, but you never came.
He was a snake.
And that she gave to him all the money from the guns deal.
She's lost to you. Offered me money.
And she stabs him in the stomach.
Your power is gone. And you will die knowing that she betrayed you. The tragedy is complete.
Okay, I'm kidding. Samaru got her money,
offered me money to let her go,
and told her that she had to kill you if she wanted to live.
She had to take yours.
But relax, Jack's fine and completely recovered just 3 seconds later. Anyway, you kill Samaru and you get the money from his body. You definitely got the money from his body at some point. And then give it back to Cade.
Spare me the tears. There was a time I would have done the same thing. It's just so human.
Utterly affirming that he got nothing from all of this. 6 out of 10. Okay. On the same day that they released Far Cry Evolution, they also released Far Cry Instincts Predator. But relax, it's not another game. It's actually an HD collection that includes a remastered version of Far Cry Instincts that looks just pretty much the same as the original one, and Far Cry Instincts Evolution, both in one single CD. 6 months later, they released Far Cry Vengeance, a remake of Far Cry Instincts for the Nintendo Wii. And if you think that the game looked goofy on the Xbox version, man, it looks way more on this Wii version.
Goddamn sons of...
But yeah, it's clear that Ubisoft was milking the franchise the max that they could, because there's even an arcade version called Paradise Lost. And also, I just found out that there's a Far Cry 1 movie.
This is Jack Carver in a good mood.
Released in 2008 with the guy from Inglourious Basterds. Yeah, shit, what is his name again? Yeah, okay, I'm not trying to pronounce that. So, the question that is left for us to ponder at this point of the video is that there's no certainty on which game is the first Far Cry. What is the spin-offs and what is the official story of Far Cry 1? Is it this one, or any of these? Okay, sure, it's probably not any of these. Damn, this one is not even a game. But, I don't know. Which one is it?
The harder you beat a man, the taller he stands. To break a man's will, to break his spirit, you have to break his mind. Men have this idea that we can fight with dignity, that there's a proper way to kill someone. It's absurd. It's an aesthetic. We needed to endure the bloody horror of murder. You must destroy that idea. Show him what a messy, terrible thing it is to kill a man, and then show him that you relish in it. Shoot the wound, then execute the wounded. Burn them. Take them in close combat. Destroy the preconceptions of what a man is, and you become their personal monster. When they fear you, you become stronger. You become better. But let's never forget, it's a display. It's a posture, like a lion's roar or a gorilla thumping at his chest. If you lose yourself in the display, if you succumb to the horror, then you become the monster. You become reduced. Not more than a man, but less. And it can be fatal.
Okay, we go. Hey, sir. Sorry for the delay. So you're going to a hotel in Pala? Yeah, another place. It's lucky for you. Pala has only one hotel still working.
Far Cry 2. An open-world first-person shooter developed and published by Ubisoft and Ubisoft Montreal. Originally as a PC exclusive, as they were marketing it in some before launch conferences.
You guys are only making this for one platform, the PC.
Yeah. We're coming out PC exclusive, and that was our mandate from the beginning. Can play it on their PC. On PC, on any PC. Our mandate from the very beginning was to make a top-notch PC sequel.
But later on, they confirmed the ports for both the PC and the Xbox 360.
The last time we spoke, you said this is going to be a PC only.
Yeah, of course.
PC dedicated.
And we're coming out on PC, 360, and PS3.
A PC, PS3, and 360 title.
On PC, 360, and PS3.
What has changed, and will there still be focus on the PC game?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. When we were at Leipzig, I mean, the response to your question is Ubisoft doesn't make game engines just to make a game, right? They make a game engine to make lots of games.
And in this game, there's no involvement for Crytek.
Ho, ho!
And on the franchise overall after this game. Production took 3.5 years, with concept work beginning during the production of Far Cry Instincts. They actually built an engine based on the Cry engine and named it the Dunia engine, to incorporate destructible environment and a more realistic physics engine for a better functionality. The game designers decided to do some big changes on the game recipe here, and made some huge leaps on the concept. Some things worked great, others not so much, leaving a huge question mark on the future of the franchise. You can even see in some of the Far Cry 3 press conference interviews, developers traumatized by the public's reception to the game and acting like Far Cry
2 never happened, and when directly mentioned, they tried to move away from it.
Mechanisms to the game, I know with 2 we had the malaria. Anything like that for 3?
I mean, there are things that kind of went down pretty well from Far Cry 2. There are other things that maybe we've decided to kind of move away from and create our own stuff.
I'll be talking mainly about Far Cry 2 in this section of the video, Don't worry, you'll get your spot soon. So, Ubisoft went with a more realistic approach in this game, which is honestly why I thought the game was so cool the first time I heard about it. I mean, it's not Tarkov, but there's no minimap on the corner of the screen. If you want to look at the map, the game doesn't pause. You gotta check an actual piece of paper. And yeah, I know it looks kinda stupid how a sheet of paper is constantly tracking your location, and I think the developers also thought that. Because in the beta version, you can see that they wanted to make the map more realistic. There was no icons on the map, and you'd have to guide yourself using a freaking compass. But yeah, there's almost no HUD, except for your health and your bullets that pop up if there's any change to it. You don't have a crosshair in the middle of the screen. Oh, wait a minute. Never mind. The guns slowly wear down and old guns can jam in the middle of battle and even explode in your hands, forcing you to improvise more when these unexpected things happen. The fire physics are by far the best in the franchise. Yeah, even better than the games after. A lot of things can influence it. If you got dry grass, it burns faster. If it's green, it's slower. It propagates in the direction of the wind. A sunny or rainy day influences it. It's unironically jaw-dropping the amount of detail that the game received. Your car gets dirtier the more you drive. Bullets can destroy specific tree branches. You shoot a rocket to the sky, it will fall back to the ground. AI was also slightly improved. I mean, they tried to make the AI more realistic. But yeah, most of it looks pretty goofy. If they get a non-fatal shot, they fall on the ground and try to shoot you with their pistol. And I get that they are trying to make them look realistic, but no one moves like this in real life. But behind all the goofiness, there's some cool stuff. Sometimes they'll run away from the battle and try to rest on a wall. If there's a wounded enemy in the middle of a shootout, his allies will try to save him. And for a 2008 game, that's pretty cool. There's this video from Crowbcat where he compares Far Cry 2 and 5, and it's just kind of baffling and hilarious how Far Cry 2 still holds up even years later. If you haven't watched it yet, I'm gonna leave it in the description. But sometimes it's pretty janky. Enemies will run over their own a lot. They will remember where they last saw you and will wait for you to come out. But sometimes they'll just wait for me to come out from a place I went to a while ago. The map is about
50 square kilometer,
but there's still not much to do. Just like in Far Cry 1, you can hear 1,000 different animals. But actually seeing them, you just don't. You can occasionally come across some zebras, some bulls, gazelles, some goats as well, and rarely some chickens. But no animals that will attack you, and that's a huge disappointment. Before I played the game, I thought there would be lions and hyenas and stuff like that. That would be really cool. But there's just 4 animal types. So to compensate for it, the developers filled the map with 1 million enemy outposts on the roads. And you can't really liberate them. So every time you pass by that location, the enemies that you kill there will respawn, making it so you can drive for more than 3 minutes without having 700 different enemies chasing you down all the time, shooting your car, damaging it, and the more damage, the slower it gets, till it's pretty much unusable. A rock in the road can damage your car, and if it touches water, it's inoperative. So, I hope you like mechanic simulators, because there's a lot of that. Even though, realistically, they wouldn't be able to tell who I am. Come on, Ari. If you don't want to face so many enemies, just fast travel, bro. I knew you would say that. First of all, I really don't like fast traveling in video games. But, if I wanted to, there are some bus stops spread across the map. So you can take a bus to the nearest stop to your objective. Problem is, they are very few and pretty far away from one another. And when you fast travel, you can only select specific locations on the map. So even if you fast travel, you still have to walk a lot to get to your objective. Having to stop every 5 meters to fight the exact same enemies all the time. And if you die and hadn't saved your game, you'll lose some precious minutes. And believe me, sometimes you will forget to press F5 to save the last 15 minutes of game progress. It's inevitable, because the solution that the developers came up with to fix the checkpoint problems was to give you a quick save button. And the only reason why I found out that this was a thing is because I accidentally pressed the key when I wanted to press record on my keyboard. The game never tells you about this, and I just can't imagine how annoying that was in the console versions. Every time you wanted to save, you'd probably have to pause and manually save. That takes like 10 seconds, interrupting the flow of the game. I mean, there's also these blue boxes in the interior of some places. Usually the headquarters or safe houses that you can liberate by eliminating the enemies near it.
Incoming! Up ahead!
Inside you can sleep to change daytime, get musty rats, and store some guns, if you bought the upgrade in the gun shop. But yeah, it takes too long to save that way on the PC version. Why would I use it when I can just press a key and do the same thing? But sometimes, man, you'll just be vibing, driving to get your next mission, and suddenly 15 enemies will come out of nowhere, your car will be gone in the blink of an eye, so you'll start blast. Then all your guns are jammed. And just like that, when you thought everything was just fine, it all went downhill in 10 seconds. And there I go, having to redo everything I had done in the last 15 minutes. Yeah, this game is just painful sometimes. Well, stealth is definitely more viable compared to the first game, but that doesn't say much. It's still pretty much unreliable. Enemies can still detect you from pretty far away. And they are usually in open areas, so hiding from them is pretty difficult. And they seem to have shared vision like Pain from Naruto. Cause if one enemy thinks that he has seen something, every other enemy will act accordingly. Also, because there's nothing on screen, it's impossible to tell when you're being detected. Till they start shooting you. Oh, and they still try to shoot you through walls. But now they only do if they see you going behind it. The soundtrack is finally decent, but there's nothing really remarkable about it. The main menu music is cool though. And no big changes to the multiplayer. They added more classes and you can play with 16 players, but still same game modes with different names. But it had a pretty cool level editor. You could very quickly build some pretty cool maps. What else? Oh yeah, the plot of the game. Ubisoft marketed Far Cry 2 as the true sequel to Far Cry 1.
Far Cry 2 is a action adventure shooter sequel to the original PC Far Cry.
The original Far Cry came out 4 years ago, and we got the mandate to do the follow-up to that.
Top-notch PC sequel.
But instead, the game features completely new characters, different protagonists, different plot, different setting, ambience, different game. There's absolutely no connection with the first game whatsoever. Or that's what we thought. Recently, Clint Hawking, one of the game developers, confirmed a fan theory stating that the Jackal is actually Jack Carver 10 years later. But I really don't buy that. I mean, sure, their names are similar, but I honestly don't think that was something that they had in mind when developing the game. And there's definitely no reference to this connection between the two games on Far Cry 2. But I don't know, it's possible, I guess. Story tells itself, right? Anyway, the game starts with a character in a taxi, moving down a dirt road, and enjoying the beautiful savanna landscape, making some conversation with the driver, till they reach a destination, a hotel. They only left Impala, the main town country since the war started. The game takes place in an unnamed war-torn African country. The government have been completely dissolved, and two factions emerged to claim power. If only they had Nicolou, this could have all been avoided. Now, the nation is plagued by civil war between the rebel forces' two political factions. The United Front for Liberation and Labor, UFLL, led by Adi Bantuwe, a former labor union chief and opposition leader, and the Alliance for Popular Resistance, APR, led by Oliver Tambusa, a former army major and the chief of staff of the former government. He collected a remnant of the collapsed government's army to stand against the UFLL. The APR is trying to unite the UAC to various countries of Africa, and the UFLL are the natives trying to preserve the country from the APR. While each claims to represent the people, they are both equally brutal and exploitative with the civilian population. Our protagonist is a mercenary who's been sent to this country by an unknown organization a silent protagonist that you can choose from a variety selection, and all the information about them that the game gives us is half a page with their age, nationality, height, weight, hair, eye color, and what kind of experience as a mercenary they had before coming to this place. I picked Marty Alencar just because he was born in São Paulo just like me. And it's also the most picked character among all players, probably because he got some cool tattoos in his arms. The one in his left arm reads Morte, that means death. But there's absolutely no difference between them, not in gameplay and also not story-wise. After you pick one, you can find the rest of them in-game as one of your friends. And that's the only way to get a little more information about them. So yeah, you wanna learn a little more about your character? Well, too bad. For that, you gotta replay the game and be lucky enough to find them. Even though they rarely talk about their personal life, they'll usually just give you tasks.
I need somebody to destroy this tank at depot before attack can begin. You on job?
And if they die, they are gone forever from that save.
Hey, what happened?
Anyway, you are sent to eliminate our infamous arms dealer, the Jackal, who is selling weapons to both factions of this conflict. But once you've stepped into the country, you get infected with malaria, and only find out when you're reaching the hotel. Then our protagonist suffers a malaria-induced seizure and passes out.
You don't look so good. You're tired.
Waking up with the Jackal in person right in front of us, reading our mission briefing and mocking us. Too weak to fight, we can just stand there and watch.
The target's presence in the state continues to be a destabilizing influence. He's largely responsible for the recent influx of weapons into the country and clear violation of the Joint Signatory Framework. His reputation as a dangerous arms dealer is well deserved. Orders are to terminate. Well, that didn't work out the way they planned. I'm still breathing and you're the one with malaria. You can tell them you tried, but that means fuck all, doesn't it? You're fired. You know it, and so do I. You had your shot, but now it's over. And since men like you only work for money, you're no longer my problem. You'll have to find something else to do with yourself now. What your old clients don't seem to understand is that they can't kill me. Do you understand what I'm saying? Nobody kills me. Nobody. I'm the one who decides who lives and who dies. Me. You know, there's a book I read a long time ago. Still think about it every day. It helps me understand life out here. The book talks about men, about what motivates them. Simple, really. A living being seeks above all else to discharge its strength. Life itself is will to power. Nothing else matters. So
If there's one thing that a Far Cry franchise knows how to do well, is how to write a villain. And the Jackal is definitely one of the most interesting ones. He's an arms dealer that have been in the business for way too long. As stated by Ruben, he's been part of at least 16 African wars, to a point where he's internationally wanted and known for selling his weapons at very low prices and being very good at hiding. And despite an apparent lack of morals, he is a man of humanist beliefs. He truly believes that he has a noble role on arming both sides in the conflict, that he empowered these people, that he's a great equalizer, even quoting Nietzsche's Beyond Good and Evil the first time we meet him.
it helps me understand life out here. The book talks about men and what motivates them. Simple.
Where do you get the weapons? It's a romantic notion that they all came out of the Soviet Union after the collapse. That was a windfall back in '89, maybe through '91, but that's all over. I move weapons, I profit from circulation. You get a ceasefire in Liberia, both sides disarm. You think they slag 2,000 tons of guns? No. They sell them to me. I resell them wherever the next war is starting.
Those same Soviet guns from 1989.
Oh, that's about half. The rest mostly come from old European armies. After they abandoned their colonies in the 60s and 70s, you know, French guns, Dutch, Belgian.
So some of these guns are very old. They've been sold, bought, and sold repeatedly.
They're not biodegradable. Only the dead are biodegradable.
Why Africa? People need weapons all over the world. Why here? Why my home?
Every place is somebody's home, pal. But it doesn't stop people from going to war. I don't start wars. I didn't start this one. It seems like it's your fellow Africans that want each other dead. Besides, why should I give a shit about your home? Why should anyone? You want me to go somewhere else? So there's someone's home you don't give a shit about?
What if it was your home?
War is my home.
Why arms? Why not car parts, radios?
What's the difference? Same job, really.
You get up, you get on the phone, you meet your clients, you discuss a fair price, you make a delivery, receive payment. Sounds boring, but it's not. It's just simple. I'm doing what men have been doing for thousands of years, trading one thing for another. If it's you who wants to attach morality to it, make it evil. Insane. People who work in gun factories in Belgium or the States, they're unionized, right? You think kids making radios in Bangladesh pull down 40 grand a year on a 40-hour week? You start thinking too much about morality. That's insane.
Well, that's what you call being unlucky. You just got into a new country, got instantly contaminated with malaria. The hotel you went to is the same than your targets. You meet him, let him flee, and now that he knows who you are and everything about your mission, the organization that hired you canceled the contract, and you are left alone and sick in the middle of a civil war. Correction. That's what you call getting outside. The rebels were prepared to engage in a fierce firefight. To get out of there alive, you'll have to fight. Well, actually, you can just walk out of there and not kill anyone. And your character will pass out because of the malaria again. Then a car come and get you. By the way, there's no reason for you to have this plastic jar, because at this point of the game you still haven't looked for any medicine. But whatever. Or if you do it the fun way and try to fight, it's impossible to kill everyone. The game will keep on spawning enemies till you die. You wake up in an old house with a guy watching you sleep.
I like watching you sleep.
You get some tutorials about your health.
Ew, disgusting.
Then he says,
You got some of my guys killed at the hotel, did you know that?
but I've killed no one, dude.
So now I think you work for me now.
What do you mean? Anyway, now you work for him, I guess. Your first mission is to eliminate enemy presence from a safe house they are guarding. After that, he sends you to secure an enemy outpost by yourself. Well, maybe he just wants to get you killed or something, I don't know. Well, there you free a guy that's being held captive.
I've been here. You're not a guard. I've been here. Sick. Very sick. I've been here. You, sir, need some medicine.
AKA your new buddy. Very important feature in Far Cry 2 marketing.
Buddies. The buddies.
You got your buddies.
Buddies. The buddy.
Those buddies.
Your buddy.
Your buddies.
The buddy. Buddy. The buddies.
Female buddies.
But, yeah, I've talked about them a little already. We'll talk a little more about them later.
I've been here.
After clearing the outpost, the guy you met in the house calls you back and asks you to return in order to get paid for what you did for him. Since there's no government anymore, people now don't care about paper money. So the population now trade literal diamonds.
The only currency worth anything is diamonds.
He then pays you 10 diamonds, which is a generous amount.
Keep the change.
Then you go through a long tutorial section. How to buy guns. How to get gun you bought. Here's where your buddies hang out. Learn a little something about their story and their personality.
Last time I saw you, you were very sick. Please, let me introduce myself. My name is Karbani Singh. You see that man right there? He can get malaria pills, and that is what you need.
I'm Yosef. Everybody says you're tough. You get in bad spot, you count on me.
Okay, they are uninteresting and useless. Seriously. I just love how in press conference interviews with the developers, they were selling the buddies as these super smart AI characters that will be your best friends forever. Always have your back and all that. But in reality, they don't even talk to you unless it is to give you a chore. And doesn't even help you with. And also, since it's a favor, you don't get any diamonds from these missions. You only get more reputation. That is a invisible meter that does basically nothing except making the townsfolk more fearful of your presence.
Hey, look, man, no shooting here.
Let me get out of your way.
And you also increase that buddy's history. Another worthless, invisible meter that just tells you who your best buddy is. Meaning which buddy will give you alt missions in the main story. Yeah, thank you Ubisoft. I've always wanted best friends like this. This guy though, this guy seems genuinely interesting.
You people never stop. Here's the bloody tape, alright? That's it. That's all I've got.
You can't break a man the way you break a dog or a horse. The harder you beat a man, the tougher.
So you're not one of them. I'm Ruben Oluwagembi, what you call a stringer. And you are new, I can tell by the state of your clothes. They're much too clean. You're taking a chance talking to me. I'm persona non grata around here. The warlords want me out of the country. They don't like the story I'm writing. It's about the war, and about them, of course. But mostly it's about the famous arms dealer, the Jacker. That was him on the tape. Do you know I have covered 16 wars across Africa? 16. And every time he has been there, selling his weapons and making a fortune while millions of people suffer and die. He thinks he can continue to do his work in secret, but not this time. These stories, they are going to come out. The jackals, the warlords, the soldiers, the boy soldiers, even the NGOs. I intend to expose the whole sordid mess. I make it sound very dramatic. We'll see if anybody back home even notices.
Even though he's not a very explored character, it's still kinda cool to find someone else who's fighting Jacko, right? And he actually has a real-life blog with a lot of information about him.
Soldiers confiscated my tapes. They said they destroyed them, but maybe not. I don't know.
Well, the tutorial is still not over though. How to get malaria
you're
pills.
not well. You should see a doctor before you really need a priest. Did Ruben send you? He had something for you. I would be very happy to give you what little medicine I have in exchange. I think you should take one of those right away.
How to find main missions, how to find side missions, and other stuff. Okay, so after 1 hour of doing nothing except tutorials, we are finally free to do whatever we want. So I immediately wanted to check some of the main missions, but accidentally threw an aid and got banned from the city. Well, okay. Let's do some side missions then.
My friend, how about some side work today?
So yeah, what else can you do in Far Cry 2? Oh, I'm glad you asked. There are actually over 90 side missions, believe it or not. And when I say 90, I mean 3 side missions.
30 times each. Ubisoft's idea of variety is, hey, here's the same exact mission, but it's over here on the map. Wow! How we do it?
Yeah, I've got Pyro and Dunkey in the video, and yeah, it's really damn shut up.
48 hours to delete this.
We've got the assassination missions.
Listen very carefully. There's an available target opportunity. Proceed to the objective marked on your map. Terminate the target. Standard payment in rough guidance will be transferred to your account on completion.
The guns shopping missions.
My friend, what are your thoughts on a little business arrangement? There's a man bringing in a load of low-grade arms from the east trying to undercut me, you understand. Take out that shipment and I'll bring in something special for you next time you buy. I knew you'd see it that way.
And the malaria pills missions.
I hear talk about you, sir. Bad things, but we take help where we can get it. We have no medicine now. You must speak to a man I know a half a mile south of Makuba Shanty Town, an undertaker. You'll find his place on your map. Men like you won't receive warm receptions, but if you can help us, my colleague will help you, I promise. He is waiting on these travel papers. Bring them with you and you'll get the medication.
And that's it. Well, we also got the buddies missions, but as I said before, the only reward of that is their friendship. And who wants that, right? The assassination missions are the most enjoyable for me. You find them in these boxes in the side of antenna towers. A person with a voice changer calls you and always gives you the exact same message. And you gotta go to a place and kill a guy in a business suit. Their status varies from being protected by a convoy and constantly moving around. Sheltered in a guard post. Or just chilling in a ceasefire zone. But honestly, there's no point in actually doing these missions. I mean, sure, it pays you diamonds, but it kills fun. The game gives you no background on why these people need to be eliminated, and it leaves you to assume the reason behind all this. And that's honestly the most fun for me. Now you can imagine how boring the other ones are. And the annoying part is that the game forces you to do some of them, like the gun shop missions unlock new weapons for you to buy, and you can't get access to these guns any other way. And if you want to buy all of them, you'll have to do a lot of side content to get the necessary amount of diamonds. The shop owner tells you that his rivals are bringing in shipments of low-grade weapons from the next place. Then you are tasked with going to that area and destroying the truck carrying the guns. Or just shoot it till the engine is spewing black smoke. Well, even though the arms dealer says that the convoys are making deliveries to his rivals, the convoys literally travel on a circuit, and thus will never actually arrive anywhere. And lastly, the malaria pills missions. Initially, you get them by talking to the priest in the church on the main town. But at the end of the first act, one of the factions, depending on which one you choose, launches a massive offensive on the opposite side. And as a side effect of that, troops started storming Pala, capturing and killing civilians and foreigners. Father Malaya is one of the targets, so he tries to escape and flee the country.
We have to go, you stay behind. It's us they want, not you. Please, after we go, move the cabinet over the entrance so they can't follow us.
And after this point of the game, you get the pills from this doctor at his clinic. But also, after you make some of them, the safe house where the civilians were hidden turns into an icon on your map that you can go to get more of these missions. They give you some passports and some other travel documents for you to trade for the pills with the civilians who are trying to cross the border to escape the war. Honestly, I really like the malaria as a feature. The health works with this medikit system where you can carry syringes that you find in these first aid boxes in different places on the map. It fully recovers your health bar unless you only got 2 bars left. In that case, you have to perform first aid on yourself. That means if you got a bullet in your arm, you put your finger in the hole and get that out of there. Dislocated arm or a foot, gotta move it back in place and get that out of your way as soon as possible. Which is very cool. You simply fix your body in the most brutal way. So cool in fact that they maintained it in Far Cry 3 and 4, but they softened it a lot. And besides having to keep an eye on your health and your Tourette's, at any moment we can have a malaria attack. The camera gently shakes, your vision gets blurred, you can't run or jump, and you take the pills to reduce how often the effects happen. Cool mechanic on paper, but not well executed in game. I mean, it's actually a pretty cool addition as far as I'm concerned. Correlates greatly with the African setting, that's not what I'm saying. What's annoying about the malaria isn't the dizziness you feel. The annoying part is the way you need to obtain the medicine. Can you guess how? Yeah, you gotta make these copy and paste side missions till you die of boredom. Cause if you don't take the pills, you'll die, right? Well, I actually wanted to test that theory, because I reached a point where it was getting annoying to keep on doing this much side content. So near the game ending, I just stopped taking the pills, mainly to see what would happen. And I've played for about 3 more hours and nothing happened to me. So I immediately thought the pills were a lie. So after I watched the credits, I googled this, and people say that between 3 and 4 malaria attacks, our character passes out with that same animation that I saw at the beginning of the game. And you would wake up in the main town, but I had over 5 attacks and nothing happened. At 84% of the game progress, I was at sickness level 4. And at 88% and so on, I was at sickness level 5. And again, nothing happened to me. But I don't know, I was doing missions, so maybe I was being protected by some plot armor or plot vaccine. Oh my god, so good.
My man!
So good. Someone
my
give this
man.
man a prize. Or maybe if you're carrying the pills, you don't actually have to take the pills every time the game tells you to. So I'm just super woke. So yeah, what other missions are there? Alright, the main story. So since you have already done some work for one of the factions, you are now accountable. Now you're just as much part of this conflict as every other soldier. Not entirely by choice, of course. It's the only way for you to leave this place alive, right? Well, not really. If that was really the case, our protagonist wouldn't be getting so involved into the war. We could have just got a few diamonds and reached someone with a plane to help us fly across the border, like many civilians were already doing. So yeah, clearly our protagonist is a maniac who likes to kill. Okay, pick our side. The APR are they UFLL? Wait, is this where the choice is coming to place in the Far Cry franchise? Well, kinda. Like, in Far Cry 4, you can actually work for just one person until eventually they are named the leader of the Golden Path. You can see back in some interviews the developers stating that you can choose to work for only one side.
You work for one warlord for a really long time, he might decide you're too much of a threat to his own position.
But that's actually not possible. Sometimes you'll have the choice to choose a side because there's two missions available, and you can hear both sides just like you can in Far Cry 4.
On some sort of remedy. A plant that already kills.
But most of the time, after some plot events, you'll either have just one faction giving you missions, or the guard at the door is the one who's gonna give you missions. And they just don't tell you what the mission is until you accept it. So yeah, you can very rarely listen to both sides, and when you can, it's not two ways of doing the same mission, it's two completely different missions. And they both sound interesting, and usually they both sound morally doubtful, if that's what you care about. So yeah, there's not that much freedom as one might think, because the game needs you to work for every side for the plot to make sense at the end. So, okay, you start applying yourself out for both the APR and UFLL, while also working for the underground to keep yourself stocked with malaria medicine, and also your buddies, mercenaries just like you, that you can help reach their own personal goals. And not only that, since you were originally paid to kill the Jackal because he's making money by perpetuating war, which is evil, you keep on hunting him down. But wait, didn't your contract got cancelled?
You're fired. You know it, so do I. You had your shot, but now it's over. And since men like you only work for money, you're no longer my problem.
You are not getting paid for killing the Jackal anymore, right? So why on earth would you keep on tracking him down? Out of a grudge? Out of embarrassment or spite for how he humiliated you at the beginning of the game? Or just for fun, to kill as many people as you can, because you are a freaking psychopath? Clearly there's no interest in just leaving the country. And there's no benefit in taking out the Jackal. And he didn't do anything to hurt you, so you can't say it was out of resentment.
Well, that didn't work out the way they planned. I'm still breathing and you're the one with malaria.
I mean, he made some jokes about how easy it was for him to find you, but come on. And you're a foreigner, so you are definitely not fighting for your country. But Nori, he's a mercenary, isn't he? Yeah, okay, sure. You can say that he became the central piece of this war just by doing his job. But if that was the case, that's very poorly translated into gameplay. If we were here just to make some bucks, you wouldn't be spending all of your payment in the nearest gun shop after every mission. Just to go back to the guy that previously hired you, get another service, use your gear till it literally explodes, then receive a fraction of what you invested in the mission. The truth is that our protagonists have a huge lack of motivation and purpose, and the fact we got a silent protagonist doesn't help. And I really don't get it why the developers decided to go this route. Because, like, they had the voice actors, and every mercenary has multiple different voice lines. So why not just put the extra effort and write them some more lines for the main missions? That alone would make them just that much more relatable. As a result of their creative choice, it's impossible to feel attached to our protagonist at all. There's just nothing that justifies him killing a countless number of people, helping both sides in a war, eliminating lieutenants, generals, war chiefs, when you don't have a bigger purpose in mind. I mean, that alone just makes him even worse than the Jackal himself. Because every action from our protagonist makes it look like he's just searching for power. Anyway, so, the main missions. Honestly, they are also repetitive. And yes, I'm talking about the main missions. Most of them are just like, go somewhere and interrogate someone, go somewhere and intercept a vehicle.
Assassination. Chief of police. Bam. Capo, tell him where to find this man.
Go somewhere and kill someone. Go somewhere and mark or steal something valuable. And as I said before, since both sides are equally bad, it's pretty hard to feel attached to any character. The only ones I actually liked because they were somewhat interesting were these guys. But the faction leaders or any of the members are so far away from getting any sympathy from me. And the game got a lot of these table turning moments
How the turntables.
where you can kill a member of one of the factions. And it's kinda cool to kill guys that you previously worked for. They'll either get really mad at you.
Get out of my place. Get the fuck out before I really decide to hurt you. This is my house, my country, my continent. You are a scavenger and a trespasser.
Try to bargain.
Don't get talk. I have no idea where I came from. You'll never see me again. Hey, look, I got an idea. How about you let me help you kill Kankaras instead? Would be way cool. I know guys back at the HQ.
And most of them will shoot you if you give them your back. And I thought that was kind of funny because they don't really seem to have the firepower to do you any real harm. And some just don't seem to care. But what happens next is always underwhelming. These missions are supposed to be the most exciting ones. The game always tries to make these moments feel like a huge betrayal. But most of these missions, your target is a character that haven't been properly introduced, and sometimes they just have never been mentioned. So why should I care about assassination when I barely know anything about the target? Every character is so bland. Why should I care about who I'm betraying or who I'm helping when everyone is corrupt, squalid, and disgusting anyway? We've got very few memorable characters, except for maybe the villain, who's probably the most mysterious villain in all the franchise. And that's pretty much the whole story of Far Cry 2. You're just a guy who cares only about money, helping tyrants to get what they want. And even when you're helping innocent people, it's for your own benefit. And yeah, the game had a lot going for it, but it also had many problems. And honestly, that's kinda sad, because Far Cry 2 had everything to write its name in history. But unfortunately, Ubisoft took all this potential and made a very repetitious and monotonous game. The game received a user score of 6, but it has a Metascore of 8.5, which honestly seems a little far-fetched. That's because while some reviews were a little more realistic, giving the game a score of 6, 7, 7.5, there were also some reviewers that were giving the game a 10, a 9.5, which makes absolutely no sense. But yeah, luckily though, Ubisoft took all the criticism from their players, and that had a huge positive influence on the redemption of the franchise in the next game. You finally get to meet the Jackal at last, and death is inevitable at this point. He then proceeds to reveal that he has a plan to put an end to this war. And to execute this plan, he needs you to retrieve a briefcase full of diamonds. No need for that, man. I got like more than 100 diamonds with me right now. At this point, you are led to believe that your buddies all died after an ambush on the bar where you all used to hang out. But when you arrive to get the briefcase, you find literally all of them, even the ones you never met and the ones who died during the game as well, waiting to ambush you to keep the briefcase for themselves. I guess what this very ambitious scene is supposed to show us is that our best friends in the game never really did care about us. They'd put more value in a briefcase full of diamonds than our friendship. At the end of the day, they're all just mercenaries, nothing more than that. Man, if they had just done a couple of jobs for someone, they'd all be rich by now. Yeah, some people just never reach their true potential, huh? Well, you kill them all and then retrieve the briefcase. Actually, you don't have to kill them. Like, I just ran away because I couldn't kill them. They were in a way too big number, and because of that, they would deal way too much damage and had way more HP than a regular enemy. But the story played out the same way. After you give the briefcase back to the Jackal, he explained his plans in more detail.
They're all here. Good. We'll need them.
Dude, seriously, there was no need for me to get these diamonds for you. You got like 9 diamonds in here? I am carrying with me right now like more than 10 times that. But yeah, back to what's happening. The majority of the civilian population is about to cross the nearby border, but soldiers are making the process way too difficult. His plan is to help everyone get off the country safely and to end the conflict. But for that, you and him must also die. One of you has to blow up the road behind the refugees, and the other must use the briefcase to bribe the guards to let them pass. And shoot yourself after that, which honestly seems a little extreme. But none of them seems to object, so, well, no matter what option you choose, the ending plays out the same. The refugees make it across the border, while Ruben looks and takes photos. The bomb goes off in the distance, probably killing whoever detonated it. A picture taken by Ruben occupies the whole screen, accompanied with the sound of a gunshot. Presumably as the person who took the briefcase shoots himself. Well, it's a nice ending. It shows that the two most evil characters in the game seeked out redemption at the end. But yeah, it's just as bleak as the game preceding it.
Saw this kid in the side of the road yesterday. Couldn't have been 18, 17. Had a shotgun across his lap and a dead APR half in the ditch next to him. Couple of close-range blasts with that 12-gauge tore up big chunks of hamburger on his torso. Kid was lifting up the guy's leg, taking his boots. Kid just looked tired. Just beaten down, ragged, tired, old. Kid that age shouldn't look like that.
Far Cry 3, the fans' favorite and most adored game in the franchise, an open-world first-person shooter developed by multiple studios, such as Ubisoft Montreal, Massive Entertainment, Ubisoft Shanghai, Red Storm Entertainment, and some others. And as I said before, what Far Cry 3 does, it takes both previous main titles in the series and filters everything good that this game's had, applying it to a new game while also adding new stuff. The huge maps, the paradisiac island setting, the realistic healing, and as a first in the franchise, you can finally see all the animals that you hear. And also, they added civilians to populate the island. They replaced these sort of horror moments from the first game that the monsters provided for these psychedelic experiences. The realism was toned down, guns don't jam anymore, the healing animations are quicker and less detailed, the graphics are slightly more cartoony and colorful as opposite Far Cry 2's grayish and depressive map. More thought was put on the protagonist and also on all the different side characters, meaning they are basically more human compared to the soulless robots of Far Cry 2. And because of that, it's 1,000 times easier to connect yourself to the game's story. It's captivating, relatable, and it has definitely the best villain in all the series, which in my opinion is what single-handedly made this game so great. But yeah, you wouldn't have this without the excellent performance from all the actors involved. I say this because of how bad the first game's voice acting was.
No, please, you don't understand. They sent me. They're always watching. You can't change this. You can't change the future.
Probably not, but I can make sure you're not a part of it. Stupid bastard.
So what else Far Cry 3 did better than the games before? Well, the soundtrack, movements list, gameplay, animations, and facial expressions are all very well done for the year of its release. The side missions are sort of repetitive, but at the same time, they are not.
We're not done yet. Can you help out with the items on the bulletin board?
Yeah, there's still like more or less 3 types of side missions, unless you consider climbing towers and the nag hunt good content. Okay, sure, outposts are actually good content. Yeah, well, they change slightly from the previous one, so it truly doesn't feel like the same exact mission. For example, The assassination missions like the ones from Far Cry 2, you have to eliminate a target using a specific weapon. There's also hunting missions, and the same applies. And the animals are always different, obviously, so... Most importantly though, they kept the slide movement.
I tried to sneak through the door, man. Can't make it. Can't make it. The shit's stuck. Out of my way, son! Door stuck!
Far Cry 3 have a Metascore of 8.8, an overall excellent game, by far the best in the franchise. It managed to put together an excellent plot, gameplay and fun. It resurrected the franchise, sold over 5 million copies in just 1 year, and it's truly the game that put the spotlight in the series.
I want a cheeseburger, pussy, and a cigarette.
Therefore creating an instant hype in every game that would come after. It's definitely my favorite game from the franchise, even though Steam would disagree. And yeah, that's where this video ends. I won't even try to do a more complete review of this game for many reasons. The first being, there's this masterpiece of a video by Pyrocynical that I absolutely love, and I really can do a better job in such a short time anyway. And I think that everyone watching this probably already watched that. And the last reason being that I've ran out of disk space. Yeah, I gotta export this video and delete all this footage that I have because I need more space. And yeah, I really wanted to make this video into just one single huge video, but I guess I'll have to cut it in 2 parts. And yeah, before I end it, I just want to say a few things. First of all, sorry for the poor graphics quality, mainly in Far Cry 2. The reason for it is because I'm using a very low-end PC to do all of this, and where I live, it's pretty hard to afford an actual good PC. Much harder than, let's say, in the US. I also had a bunch of problems with my energy font. I don't know if that's the name, I don't remember how it's called in English, but that was ruining my FPS quite a lot. I'm not trying to come out as pitiful or anything like that. It's just that I want to say that I'm aware of the poor quality in many moments of the video, and I don't know, I feel ashamed of that. I really wish I could have done a video with more quality overall, but that couldn't stop me from making this video because I really wanted to do this, because I love this. And it doesn't matter if I'm broke, I'm still gonna do it, and I love doing this. It was fun. And I honestly never thought about how I was going to record games like Far Cry 4 and 5 till when I was halfway to completion of Far Cry 2. Cause like, this is how I completed Far Cry 5, and I myself wouldn't watch this. And yeah, I don't want to use other people's recordings, so I don't know, I guess I'll have to figure it out. And lastly, English is hard to learn as a second language. So, sorry for some mistakes I've made, if I've made any, which I probably did. But honestly, I just can't tell. But yeah, I don't think I have anything else to say. It feels like I'm doing this to nobody. It's a weird feeling. But if by any chance someone watched this till this point of the video, thank you so much for watching.